Hey there, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. As you can probably tell from the video title, this is a review of the Paulina palette by BlushTribe. So I have had this palette for about a week now, and I feel like I can give an adequate review on it. I have already done 3 looks with this palette, and I will link the video up in the cards wherever that appears. So with this palette, you get a sleeve here, slide it out, and it is a 9-pan palette, and here are the colors. I'm going to do live swatches, or at least I'm going to try. So now that you got to see the swatches on my skin, I am considered a lot of the time medium deep, and I will also leave my shades and different brands of formulas. But anyway, the short version of the review is that I absolutely love this palette. So if you just came to get my opinion on it, and you were thinking about getting it, I guess that's pretty much all you need to know. I love this palette. So the long version is, you know, it has a little, like, slightly, you know, some quirks to it. So the only thing I've noticed about this palette is the shade Friends. It seems like it kind of wants to blend away to nothing. I had the same problem with the very light green in the Juvia's Place Tribe palette. I believe the shade name is Masai. That really light yellowish green wanted to blend away, and I found that this one had the same quirk. So the same way I recommended that yellow be packed on, I recommend this yellowish green be packed on as well. At least on someone my skin tone with a yellow base, with a yellow undertone. Like, just because of the color and this being yellow base, you might want to go in with a white base with this shade. That works really well. But also, since it wants to blend away, I feel like it's more of a packing shade. Another observation I had, this color Siggy is it's a really hard pressed shade in the pan. So you're gonna have to work a little bit to get the pigment out. But once you get it, I really love this color. And another observation about these 2 shimmers in particular, because the shimmer shade Selma doesn't have any glitter in it. These 2 do, Thingeling and Soulie. If you apply them dry, like, you know, this swatch that's on my arm, then you will get the glitter, but you'll also get the glitter fallout. Now, if you want to use them dry, what you can do is use a glitter glue. I've done that too. But once you put it on the lid, the wet application and the dry application are different. So dry application, even with the glitter glue, it looks like this, and it retains the look that it has in the pan. Now, if you use the shadows wet, that's Soulie and Thingeling, both of which I have on my eyes today, then you will get something that looks like this. So by using them wet, it really changes the look of the formula, or the look of the shadow. And I really like the look of the shadows when they're wet. So that's something to think about. I mean, it just completely morphs the shades, and that's not a bad thing. I love that. And I also like to note that Siggy being a hard pressed pigment isn't necessarily a bad thing either, because these are all really pigmented. And if someone is new to using colors, I think it's better to have a more hardly pressed pigment as opposed to a looser pressed pigment, because Paulina is a little bit harder pressed, and that tends to be the one that I struggle with, just because it's so pigmented. I mean, look at that, it's really pink. And sometimes if I'm not careful dipping my brush in, I pick up too much pigment and it gets away from me. So I'm actually happy that Siggy is pressed so hard into the pan. And also another observation is with these 2 greens, Siggy and Humble. In the pans, you would think that there's a lot of tonal difference between them. Humble tends to come off as a mid-tone green in pan, and Siggy looks like a darker green. However, when you apply them on the lid, that's really not the case, because Humble is such a vibrant green, as you can see here. And I find that Siggy isn't really enough to overpower it. So typically when I go in with the greens, I'm either using this and this, or this and this. There's really no point, I find, in trying to do the 3 steps like light, mid-tone, and dark green. And you know, that's fine with me. You can save a step, and this shade Friends is amazing at blending out on my skin, at least. Blending out from either of these 2 darker greens, so that's not really an issue. And yeah, that's the end of my observations. I have absolutely no qualms with this palette. Have no reservations about recommending it to someone who might have been interested and can acquire it if they want to. One last note as well about the shimmers. You will get a little bit of glitter fallout. That's not a huge deal for me. The glitter fallout from these 2 shades is easily wiped away, and the same is true for Selma. So just so that you're aware, you might get a little bit of fallout, but you can get fallout with any shadow, so I don't consider fallout like a deciding factor in buying a palette or not, or you know, disqualifying a formula as bad or good. So yeah, that is what you have. I am really happy with the palette. I am so proud of Paulina, and I think if you watch Paulina, you can really look at this palette and see that it is purely inspired by some of her favorite colors, and just really speaks to her style and her beauty aesthetic, and it's so cool. And even though I bought her palette, I still haven't been able to recreate some like Paulina-esque inspired, Paulina-inspired looks, but I still think it's really awesome. So anyway, that's it. I've been talking for entirely too long, and really it should have been a short review. Yes, I love the palette, but I did want to note some of those things if you don't have the palette already. Yeah, those are just the little things I noticed. So I will see you guys soon enough, and I hope the new year finds you all well. I'll see you soon. Bye.